always ami ast. Ami asto, ami asto.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides on an official visit to India to hold talks with Prime Minister Modi in New Delhi today. Discussion on space, defence, trade, technology and innovation on the agenda. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio terms Cuba to be a threat to the United States as Havana accuses him of lies. Also, Cuba accepts offer of $100 million in humanitarian aid. WHO intensifies its support to Congo's Ebola outbreak response amid clashes. Other countries issue advisories. And International Energy Agency chief warns of global oil market entering red zone this summer amid Iran crisis. Also, Kevin Warsh all set to head US Fed Reserve amid growing inflationary concerns. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides is in India on a 4-day official visit. He arrived in New Delhi on Thursday following key business engagements in Mumbai aimed at boosting economic and strategic ties between the two countries. The Cypriot leader has a busy schedule ahead as he's set to meet President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Modi in New Delhi today. A report.
On a 4-day official visit to India, the President of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulides, arrived in New Delhi on Thursday after completing his engagements in India's commercial capital, Mumbai. In Mumbai, President Christodoulides visited the National Stock Exchange of India, where he addressed the business leaders and investors on strengthening economic ties between India and Cyprus. At the NSE, President Christodoulides described Cyprus, which currently holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union, as a strategic gateway linking India, Europe and the Middle East. He added that stronger India-Cyprus cooperation could help unlock access to a market of nearly 2 billion people across the regions.
Cyprus serves as a natural gateway, very correctly was mentioned before, between India, Europe and the wider Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, combining political and economic stability with ambition, with innovation and a future-focused outlook. India is one of the most dynamic economies in the world. Europe remains one of the world's largest and most stable markets. So the world's two largest democracies, we are a combined market of 2 billion people. The two together translates into infinite opportunity.
Earlier, the visiting Cyprus president attended the Cyprus-India Business Forum in Mumbai, focusing on expanding economic and commercial cooperation between the two countries. During the forum, multiple MOUs were exchanged between Indian and Cypriot industry bodies across sectors such as space, defense, trade, technology, and innovation. The visit of the Cypriot president comes less than a year after Prime Minister Modi's landmark visit to Cyprus in June 2025, which marked the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the Mediterranean nation in over 2 decades. Prime Minister Modi and President Christodoulides are expected to hold wide-ranging talks aimed at strengthening bilateral cooperation in areas including trade, investment, technology, defense, AI, and other key sectors. The Cypriot president will also meet President Draupadi Murmu, who will host an official banquet in honor of the visiting dignitary. India and Cyprus are set to mark 65 years of diplomatic relations in February 2027, with both sides aiming to further deepen engagement within the broader Indo-European Union framework. Rupak Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
India and Cyprus share close and time-tested strategic partnership. The visit of President Christodoulides will build upon the ongoing momentum in bilateral relations, reflecting the shared commitment of both sides to further deepen cooperation, including in the wider India-EU context. The two countries will mark 65 years of diplomatic relations on 10th of February 2027. So those were the highlights of the India-Cyprus strategic partnership over recent years. Did India's Shubhendu Ghosh joins us on the story for more. Shubhendu, what are the key areas of cooperation likely to figure in the talks today between President Nikos Christodoulides and Prime Minister Modi in the wider India-EU context?
Good morning, Tanvi. There is a great deal of optimism around the visit of President Nikos Christodoulides of Cyprus to India. There are a host of areas where the two countries converge, their worldview, their priorities converge, whether we talk about trade and investment, whether we talk about exchange and investment in technology. Mobility happens to be a very significant aspect of the relationship as well. Some of it, we also got a glimpse of the president's program in Mumbai. The economic aspects of it. Then there is also the IMEC corridor, the flagship visionary corridor that links India with the Middle East, with Europe, and Cyprus happens to be a very important part of it. Cyprus, remember, is a small but very influential island nation in the Mediterranean Sea. It also chairs the European Union. It's the president of European Union for the year. So in that sense, India's close partnership with Cyprus also augurs well for India's engagement with the continent of Europe as a whole, whether we talk about trade and investment, whether we talk about a defense partner and partnership and mobility partnership. And Cyprus, remember, if you recall, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Cyprus, to Nicosia last year, sometime in June, there was also a talk about mobility and the manner in which Cyprus is willing to act as a gateway for India and Indian ambitions into Europe and connecting the people. As the president in the story also mentioned, making a combined market of over 2 billion people. So in that sense, a close partner in Europe, who also happens to chair a very, very influential position of the head of European Union at the moment. Tanvi?
Yes. Shubhendu, could you expand that for us, the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor? How do India and Cyprus converge on the themes of multilateralism and IMEC?
That's right, Tanvi. Multilateralism is a common vision for both Cyprus and India. They've had challenges to their sovereignty. For example, there is the Cyprus question. A short background would be that the entire island of Cyprus is not under the control of the Cyprus government. Part of it is said to be occupied by the Turkish government. So there's a decades-old issue, and India supports Cyprus to have complete sovereignty and control over the island nation. So in that sense, multilateralism, having a right to sovereignty, especially also in the international waters, open movement and freedom of the seas, those are issues in which the two nations converge. IMAC happens to be a very ambitious corridor, which is going to be linking the markets, the people of India, of the Middle East, of Europe as well. It's also going to offer itself as an alternative supply chain and trade route. In the times of crisis, we've seen that singular trade routes come under significant pressure. They're also weaponized by some nations. So in that context, IMAC, although it is still in its nascent stage, it is taking shape. But all these friendly countries of the region, Cyprus in this case, happen to be very, very important part of this IMAC route. And when it does come into shape, then India would have a direct movement of goods and people from India to the Middle East, to Europe, and vice versa. It's going to be a combined market, a very, very significant step towards ensuring the challenges, economic challenges, strategic challenges of the future are going to be met with like-minded nations of the region. Tanvi?
Okay, we look forward to these talks and more updates coming from your end. Thank you very much, Shubhendu Ghosh, for joining us on the story. You're watching DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. Greenlanders demonstrate against Donald Trump as US diplomats open a new consulate in Nuuk. And NASA is ready with a new powerful space telescope to unlock some of the biggest mysteries of the universe.
Every week, we choose what makes it into the show. But there's more that doesn't make the cut. That's why we made Eco Drop.
In spite of the presence of large amounts of food, there are threats that could wipe out these birds.
Carres or the Kanath technique basically works as a conveyor system where water table is breached on top of a hillock or a mountain, and through these aqueducts, through these underground aqueducts, the water is transported to settlements.
By recycling it into floor mats, we are preventing large-scale pollution, helping to clean the riverbed and providing work for many women.
Meghalaya.
Thank you for staying with us on DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a meeting with his Council of Ministers on Thursday. The Prime Minister consistently stressed that the aim should always be to improve people's lives, adding that there should be ease of living for them. The Council of Ministers exchanged perspectives and best practices relating to boosting ease of living, ease of doing business, and how to further propel the reform agenda in order to realize the shared dream of the government towards a developed India, Viksit Bharat. Prime Minister Modi asked the ministers to take all possible steps so that people benefit from the government's welfare programs to the fullest. During his visit in Italy, Prime Minister Modi discussed with his counterpart, Giorgia Meloni, some very relevant issues about trade and economy, forging the way for the relations of the two countries for the next years. Reporting from Rome is our correspondent from Italy, David Martello.
Prime Minister Modi's 2 days visit to Rome has been closely followed by the Italian observers, who see in India an important diplomatical and political partner. One of the most significant aspects of Mr. Modi's visit concerned trade between the two countries. Commerce between India and Italy currently stands at $14 billion worth, making Italy India's fourth largest trading partner. The goal agreed between the two governments is now to increase the volume of trade to $20 billion by 2029, following the path set out in the Joint Strategic Action Plan signed in 2024. During the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Meloni, discussions also turned to IMEC, the major infrastructure and diplomatical initiative for goods coming from India and bound to Europe. Indian and Italian markets have enormous potential for integration. India can find in Italy commercial partners, capital and technology. Italians, on the other hand, can find in India a vast and expanding market, increasingly interested in goods from abroad. To these must be added the significant political and economic role of forging a relationship that can help stabilize the international scenario, which is currently undergoing a general realignment that is causing considerable uncertainty and raising questions about the future. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Rome is just a step of the diplomatic relation built between the two countries in the last years that surely will continue also in the future. This is Davide Martello reporting for DD India from Rome.
India and the African Union have decided to postpone the India-Africa Forum Summit due to the evolving health situation in parts of Africa. The fourth summit was scheduled to be held next week in New Delhi. India's Ministry of External Affairs said in a statement on Thursday, the two sides exchanged views on the evolving health situation in parts of Africa and reaffirmed the importance of continued cooperation in strengthening public health preparedness. India reaffirmed its solidarity with the peoples and governments of Africa and expressed its readiness to contribute to Africa CDC-led efforts aimed at addressing the evolving health situation. Consultations were held between India, chairperson of the African Union, and the African Union Commission regarding the holding of the summit. Both the sides agreed that it would be advisable to convene the fourth India-Africa Forum Summit at a later date. The new dates for the summit will be finalized through mutual consultations in due course. The World Health Organization, WHO, has intensified its Ebola response in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, delivering medical supplies and setting up isolation facilities to help contain the outbreak. Response teams have set up 2 isolation tents at Bunia General Referral Hospital in Ituri province in Congo to strengthen the capacity to receive and isolate suspected Ebola patients. The move is part of efforts to improve infection prevention and control as authorities battle a fast-moving outbreak in the region. The WHO also said that 2 cargo planes carrying around 14 tons of medical supplies and equipment had arrived to support operations. The shipments have been sent from logistics hubs in Dakar, Nairobi, Kinshasa. The supplies are aimed at boosting preparedness, surveillance and the rapid management of suspected cases in a bid to limit further spread of the disease. Meanwhile, Uganda has suspended public passenger transport with the Democratic Republic of Congo, citing a high risk of Ebola importation due to strong cross-border movement and trade links. The measures come as authorities step up containment efforts following the country's first confirmed Ebola case, a patient treated at Kibuli Muslim Hospital in Kampala who later died. Officials say heightened surveillance and restrictions are needed to prevent further spread of the disease.
Given Uganda's proximity to the epicenters and strong cross-border linkages that include trading, movement for other economic activities, and direct flights, the risk of further importation remains high. We are temporarily suspending the public passenger services on ferries, on Semliki River, the cross-border bus transport, and all public transport between DRC and Uganda for 4 weeks. But this with the exception of goods and food and any other cargo.
Meanwhile, police fired warning shots and tear gas in the northeastern Congolese town of Rwampara on Thursday after clashes erupted over the burial of an Ebola victim, with protesters forcing their way into a hospital and setting fire to medical tents. The unrest comes as authorities struggle to contain the latest Ebola outbreak in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. On to some business news now. International Energy Agency Executive Director Fatih Birol warned on Thursday that the global oil market may enter a red zone in July and August this year as fuel demand rise and energy stocks dwindle. Birol noted that the supply crisis triggered by the situation in West Asia was initially cushioned by spare capacity in the global market, but oil stocks are now gradually decreasing. Birol added that the International Energy Agency stands ready to coordinate further reserve releases if necessary. The 32 members of the IEA on March 11th unanimously agreed to make 400 million barrels of oil from the emergency reserves available to the market in response to disruptions caused by the Middle East conflict. US President Donald Trump will attend the swearing-in ceremony of Kevin Warsh as the chair of the Federal Reserve on Friday at the White House. Warsh was confirmed to the role in a near-party line vote on May the 13th. He succeeds Jerome Powell as the chair of the central bank, though Powell's separate term as a Fed governor extends through January of 2028. Warsh will serve as a 4-year term as chair and a 14-year term as Fed governor. Trump selected him as a bulwark against further rate hikes. Warsh has long expressed a desire to lower rates while slashing the Fed's balance sheet. As Kevin Warsh is said to be the chair of the Federal Reserve, let's take a look into his life and work. Kevin Warsh was born in New York and studied at the Stanford University and Harvard Law School. He began his career at Morgan Stanley in mergers and acquisitions before entering public service. Warsh served as a White House economic policy advisor under President George W. Bush and was later appointed to Fed Reserve's Board of Governors. There he served during the global financial crisis. However, he left the Federal Reserve in 2011 after disagreements over policy direction. Kevin Warsh has now pledged to maintain the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States' independence. His policy views include major changes to Fed decision-making, communication strategy, and balance sheet management. Earlier in his career, Warsh was seen as a monetary hawk, a policymaker who favors addressing the inflation side of the mandate, usually by raising interest rates. However, he has recently aligned with calls for lower interest rates. Now his leadership will be closely watched as he takes charge amid political pressure and internal divisions at the US Central Bank. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that Cuba poses a threat to US national security, while Havana accused him of spreading lies as tensions sharply escalate between the two countries. Rubio defended Washington's tougher stance and said that the US remains open to diplomacy but sees little chance of a negotiated settlement with Cuba's current leadership. He also confirmed that Cuba has accepted a US offer of $100 million in humanitarian aid. However, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Pereira accused Rubio of inciting military aggression and falsely portraying Cuba as a security risk. The exchange comes after the US announced murder charges against former Cuban President Raul Castro, further deepening tensions between the longtime rivals.
That said, our preference is always a diplomatic solution, always, and a negotiated agreement. That's always our preference. But to answer your question, if there's a threat to the national security of the United States, the president not just has the right, he has the obligation to address that national security threat. The national security threat, that's 100% something we're going to focus on because that's about America.
Further, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Thursday that Edith Lastres Morera, the sister of the executive president of GAESA, the business conglomerate run by Cuba's military, has been arrested by U.S. authorities. GAESA stands for Grupo de Administración Empresarial, or Business Administration Group. It's a sprawling conglomerate of military-run businesses, widely seen as the island's most profitable and efficient group. It controls many of the Caribbean islands' five-star hotels, its largest port at Mariel, its top commercial bank, plus a vast array of supermarkets, gas stations and remittance businesses. More news from the continent. Colombian presidential candidate Iván Cepeda of the left-wing historic Pacto Histórico vowed on Thursday to eliminate poverty and overcome social inequality. Cepeda, who leads first-round polls with 37.6% vote, reaffirmed his commitment to continuing outgoing President Gustavo Petro's agenda and presented a package of social policies as the presidential race approaches during a press conference in Bogota. More than 41 million Colombians are eligible to vote in the May 31st election to choose a successor to Petro, whose four-year term ends in August. If no candidate wins more than 50% of the vote, a runoff will be held on June 21st.
The main focus of policy during the next 4 years in our second progressive government will be advancing the elimination of poverty and overcoming social inequality. That will be the center of our concern, and of course it will be connected with other policies, both of the government and of the state.
Ese va a ser el centro.
And next news over West Asia. US President Donald Trump on Thursday returned to a more definitive tone on controlling Iran's uranium. Last week, Trump suggested that he might be okay with some 970 pounds of highly enriched uranium believed to be buried beneath Iranian nuclear facilities. But speaking to reporters at the White House on Thursday, Trump reverted to a more definitive tone about the US taking control of the uranium as part of any potential peace agreement with Iran.
How do you want things to end up with the Strait of Hormuz?
There hasn't been a ship that's been able to get through without our approval. And the Navy has done an amazing job. And no ship is going to Iran, as you know. No ship is going to, or out of Iran, without our approval.
Can they keep their highly enriched uranium?
No. We get the highly enriched. We will get it. We don't need it. We don't want it. We'll probably destroy it after we get it, but we're not going to let them have it.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Thursday voiced hope of progress on ending the war with Iran. Rubio said that despite good signs in talks with Iran, other options remain on the table. Rubio also said that Iran's plan to toll the Strait of Hormuz would make the deal unfeasible.
But obviously, we're dealing with a system that itself is a little fractured, so the Iranian system, and so. But that said, there'll be a couple visits. I understand, I believe the Pakistanis will be traveling to Tehran today, so hopefully that'll advance this further. The president's preference is to do a good deal. That's his preference. It's always been his preference.
The Israeli government on Thursday released and deported hundreds of Flotilla activists who attempted to breach Israel's naval blockade of Gaza. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said in a statement that all foreign activists from the flotilla had been deported. About 420 activists departed Israel on planes bound for Turkey, where they landed on Thursday evening in Istanbul. All of the activists were expected to be taken for a medical checkup. Activists recounted incidents of being beaten, tased and assaulted after their boats were intercepted in international waters and they were seized by Israeli forces. The activists' treatment by police officers under the direction of National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir drew a rebuke from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the United States. Netanyahu said that although Israel has every right to stop provocative flotillas of Hamas terrorist supporters, the way the National Security Minister dealt with these activists was not in line with Israel's values and norms. Outrage abroad over the activists' treatment prompted several countries to summon Israeli envoys to hear their concerns. Several countries, including Britain, France and Portugal, summoned Israeli envoys on Thursday over concerns about the treatment of these Flotilla activists and in protest of Ben-Gvir's actions. Further, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned the Israeli authorities' decision to establish military facilities at the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. The statement said, UNRWA is an integral part of the United Nations and the UNRWA Sheikh Jarrah compound remains United Nations premises. The Secretary-General urged the government of Israel to rescind its decision and immediately return to the United Nations the UNRWA Sheikh Jarrah compound. Israeli authorities demolished a building within the East Jerusalem compound of UNRWA in January this year, an action that drew immediate and sharp condemnation from the UN body and the international community. On to Europe. Hundreds of Greenlanders gathered outside a new American consulate in the capital Nuuk on Friday to protest against Donald Trump's ambition for greater influence over the island. Several hundred people demonstrated outside the consulate carrying the island's red and white flag and posters that read, "USA, stop it," while chanting, "No means no," and "Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders." A State Department spokesperson said that the new venue has greater capacity and offers an outstanding space for US diplomatic engagements in Greenland. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Friedrich Nielsen and a series of other politicians said that they had declined invitations to attend the opening of the new diplomatic mission. NASA is preparing to launch a powerful new space telescope designed to unlock some of the biggest mysteries of the universe. NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope will help scientists study dark matter and dark energy, an invisible force is believed to shape the universe. The telescope is expected to scan space nearly 1,000 times faster than the Hubble Space Telescope, allowing researchers to observe the cosmos in greater detail. NASA says the mission could launch as early as September aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Aerospace company SpaceX on Thursday scrapped the launch of its 12th Starship rocket from Texas seconds before liftoff, following multiple countdown pauses. SpaceX Starship V3, an uncrewed vehicle featuring dozens of upgrades designed for rapid satellite launches and future NASA moon missions, was set for liftoff after months of delays and testing setbacks. The final scrap came before a launch after a technical issue involving a hydraulic pin on one of the launch tower's mechanical arms failed to retract properly. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk said that if the issue is fixed quickly, another launch attempt could take place as early as Friday evening. The fully reusable rocket is central to SpaceX's plans for lowering the launch costs, expanding its Starlink satellite network, and supporting long-term deep space ambitions. And very quickly, we now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Archaeologists in northern Peru have uncovered a 600-year-old tomb at the pre-Inca citadel of Cuelap, containing the remains of 5 people. The burial site also included ceremonial offerings such as ceramic objects, stone tools, metal fragments, and spondylus seashells. Officials say the discovery dates back to the period of the Inca expansion in the region. A spiral section of the Eiffel Tower's original staircase has sold for more than 450,000 euros at an auction in Paris. The 14-step, 9-foot-tall section dates back to 1889, the year the landmark was completed, and was part of the original staircase, later dismantled and sold in segments when elevators were installed. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Heatwave conditions continue to grip large parts of India. Gunmen opened fire in 2 separate attacks in Honduras, killing at least 25 people. And BRICS Justice Ministers meeting adopts resolution on alternative dispute resolution mechanism. All that and more on the other side.
Every week, we choose what makes it into the show. But there's more that doesn't make the cut. That's why we made EcoDrop.
In spite of the presence of large amounts of food, there are threats that could wipe out these birds.
Carres or the canard technique basically works as a conveyor system where water table is breached on top of a hillock or a mountain, and through these aqueducts, through these underground aqueducts, the water is transported to settlements.
By recycling it into floor mats, we are preventing large-scale pollution, helping to clean the riverbed and providing work for many women.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. Gunmen opened fire in 2 separate attacks on Thursday on the Honduran coast, killing at least 25 people, including 6 police officers. According to Public Prosecutor's Office spokesperson Yuri Mora, the first incident took place at a plantation in the municipality of Trujillo in northern Honduras, where at least 19 workers were shot and killed. Authorities said rival gangs were fighting for control of palm plantations and drug trafficking routes. While in a separate incident, gunmen opened fire on police officers at the municipality of Omoa in the Cortes department near the Guatemalan border. According to police, at least 6 police officers were killed. The officers had travelled from the capital, Tegucigalpa, to Omoa as part of an anti-gang operation. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum met U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen on Thursday during a high-level security visit to Mexico City. The meeting was also attended by U.S. Ambassador to Mexico Ronald Johnson and Mexico's Foreign Minister Roberto Velasco. Sheinbaum said that she and Mullen agreed to continue working together within the framework of respect between the two countries. Mexico is under mounting pressure from the U.S. administration to halt illegal migration towards the country, as well as greater use of U.S. military force to combat Mexican drug cartels. Further, protests continue to escalate in Bolivia as miners and workers march through La Paz, demanding the resignation of President Rodrigo Paz just days after he announced a cabinet reshuffle aimed at calming the unrest. Demonstrators have taken to the streets over fuel shortages, rising prices and disputed economic reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidies that triggered sharp inflation and transport disruptions. Police have used tear gas to contain crowds near government buildings, while blockades have worsened food and supply shortages across parts of the administrative capital. The Bolivian government has blamed former President Evo Morales for fueling instability, while calls for dialogue and further reforms continue, alongside growing demands for President Paz's resignation. Peru incinerated more than 11 tons of drugs seized from organized crime on Thursday in a ceremony held in Lima. According to figures shared by the anti-drug police at the ceremony, security forces have destroyed 272 clandestine drug laboratories and dismantled 52 criminal organizations so far in 2026. The destroyed substances were confiscated from various locations nationwide. Back to India. The BRICS Justice Ministers meeting under India's BRICS 2026 chairship commenced in Gujarat on Thursday, with heads of delegation and representatives from member nations arriving for high-level ministerial deliberations. The meeting followed the senior officials meeting held earlier, where participating officials finalized the joint declaration titled Declaration of the Ministers of Justice of the BRICS countries on strengthening alternative dispute resolution through capacity building in mediation and arbitration. Following extensive consultations among member countries, the declaration was placed before the Ministers of Justice for formal adoption and was officially adopted. Addressing media, Law and Justice Minister of India, Arjun Ram Meghwal, said that digital innovation emerged as a common agenda among BRICS nations, and all participating members expressed consensus on the importance of strengthening alternative dispute resolution mechanisms.
ये हमारे ब्रिक्स कंट्रीज के जस्टिस मिनिस्टर की एक कॉन्फ्रेंस थी, एक मीटिंग थी, जिसके तहत पहले हमारे जो सीनियर ऑफिशियल हैं वो पहले मिले 19 और 20 तारीख को। उन्होंने डिस्कशन किया कि म्यूचुअल कोऑपरेशन में हमारे पास कौन कौन से कॉमन एजेंडा है, और अंत में सहमति बनी एक डिक्लेरेशन पे, जो आज जितने भी हमारे ब्रिक्स कंट्रीज के जस्टिस मिनिस्टर आए थे उनके बीच में डेलिब्रेशन हुआ, डिस्कशन हुआ, और एक विषय पर जो सहमति बनी वो था अल्टरनेट डिस्प्यूट रिजोल्यूशन मैकेनिज्म, जिसको हम शॉर्ट टर्म में ADR बोलते हैं।
Ministers of BRICS member countries also said that discussions focused on expert sharing, information exchange and training initiatives. They lauded India's efforts to ensure justice delivery across all regions and languages.
Firstly, I want to appreciate the hospitality by the Minister and the people of India for hosting us, and the way they've welcomed us, the hospitality. I think it's quite beautiful, and we're looking forward to these 2 days. We have anonymously adopted the declaration as the Ministers of Justice, focusing on issues around expert sharing, information and training, the digital economy or the digital matters, but more importantly as well the issues of legal aspects, the issues of mediation, working together for mutual legal assistance as countries. So there's quite a lot that we are able to reaffirm as Ministers of Justice, upholding the rule of law by all countries, but also ensuring that as Ministers of Law and Justice across BRICS member states, we work together to collaborate and to support each other.
It is an honor for Indonesia to participate in the BRICS Justice Minister meeting for the first time. We highly appreciate the warm hospitality and excellent organization by the government of India. This meeting has been very fruitful in strengthening cooperation and mutual understanding among BRICS countries in the field of law and justice. Indonesia looks forward to continue collaboration in the future.
On the weather front now, heat wave conditions continue to grip large parts of India, with the India Meteorological Department IMD warning of severe temperatures across several states. The national capital is expected to remain under severe heat wave conditions for the coming days. According to the IMD forecast, Delhi's maximum temperature may touch 46 degrees Celsius on May 22nd, while temperatures between May 23rd and May 26th are likely to remain between 44 and 45 degrees Celsius. While several districts in Bihar are on high alert for heavy downpours and severe thunderstorms in the region. The Meteorological Department issued a red colour warning for the next 3 days and an orange warning thereafter in view of the possibility of heat wave to severe heat wave conditions and warm night conditions at isolated places across large parts of northwest and central India, including the Delhi NCR region, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh over the next week. Still to come on DD India News Hour. A new record reached for the highest number of ascents on Mount Everest in a single day. And in soccer, Cristiano Ronaldo wins first Saudi Pro League title.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to some updates on the 12th International Day of Yoga as the countdown begins for the day. Yoga, an ancient Indian practice once rooted deeply in spiritual and physical discipline, has today become a global movement promoting health, mindfulness and harmony. From the United Nations headquarters to beaches, parks and stadiums across the world, millions now participate annually in the International Day of Yoga, observed every year on June 21st.
An invaluable gift from India's ancient civilization. Yoga symbolizes the union of mind, body and spirit. Derived from the Sanskrit word yuj, meaning to unite, yoga promotes balance between thought and action, human beings and nature, and physical and mental well-being. The modern global journey of yoga began in September 2014 when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the United Nations General Assembly and called yoga an invaluable gift of India's ancient tradition. The proposal of India's recommendation to the United Nations to officially declare an International Yoga Day received overwhelming international support from 175 member states, making it one of the most widely backed resolutions in UN history. And as a result, the 21st of June was officially declared the International Day of Yoga, with the first celebration held in 2015. The date carries symbolic importance as it marks the summer solstice, the longest day in the Northern Hemisphere, considered significant in many cultures and traditions. Over the years, the Indian government has integrated evidence-based yoga practices into healthcare and Ayush initiatives, which include Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha and homeopathy. To further promote yoga globally, the Prime Minister Yoga Awards were introduced to honor individuals and organizations contributing to the spread of yoga worldwide. In 2025, Prime Minister Modi led celebrations for the 11th International Day of Yoga in Visakhapatnam, where thousands gathered along the coastline for what became the world's largest yoga session, later entering the Guinness Book of World Records. Across India's capital Delhi, more than 100 yoga events were organized to mark the occasion, while similar celebrations took place in capitals around the globe. The United Nations, while adopting the resolution, stated that yoga offers a holistic approach to health and well-being and helps create balance in all aspects of life. Supporters believe regular yoga practice encourages qualities such as courage, forgiveness, compassion, self-control and inner peace, values increasingly seen as essential in modern society. In the words of Prime Minister Modi, yoga guarantees wellness as well as fitness. It is not merely an exercise, but a way to attain peace through physical, mental and spiritual well-being. As the world continues to focus on preventive healthcare and mental wellness, yoga's influence continues to grow beyond borders, cultures and generations. Maidol's report, DD India.
And next news from cinema's greatest extravaganza in Europe, the Cannes. Indian actor Anupriya Goenka made her Cannes debut this year, promoting her upcoming project, Bombay Stories. Anupriya is known for her performances in films such as Padmavat, Tiger Zinda Hai, Satyamev Jayate and Parmanu, The Story of Pokhran and other acclaimed streaming projects. DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya caught up with her.
Anupriya Goenka acts in Hindi films, Telugu films and has made her Cannes debut this year. Well, Anupriya, welcome to DD India. Tell us what brings you to Cannes.
Well, I'm here to experience world cinema, to enjoy it. I'm also here with a film called Bombay Stories. It's being screened at the market section. Abhi hamara poster launch hone wala hai. And abhi ek chota sa panel discussion tha Indian Pavilion mein. So really happy to be here and to be able to meet these beautiful independent film directors and producers who come with so much of enthusiasm and, vision.
We've seen you in Tiger Zinda Hai, in Padmavat, and now you are telling us about Bombay Stories. You are known for impactful character roles. So how do you make your choices?
By instinct primarily. It also really depends upon who you're working with. जैसे this is my first independent project. मैं काफ़ी time से independent cinema करना चाहती हूँ. मेरा मन था उसे जीने का. And I truly believe in meaningful stories and the graft that they, give to an actor to perform on. एंड राहत सर को मैं बहुत अच्छे से जानती हूँ पहले से, तो जब वो सौगंधी का कैरेक्टर भी लेके मेरे पास आए, जो मंटू साहब की कहानी है, तो ये सारा ही जो कैरेक्टर बहुत सुंदर है, उसकी लिखावट बड़ी प्यारी है. द होल राइटिंग ऑफ the film was so delicious on paper, and as a character, Saugandhi has everything in her. Like, her graph is beautiful. She's angry, she's sexy, she's seductive, she's in pain. There's a lot of sadness in her, but she's also a lot of fun. So I got to play all those shades and experience that within me as well as a performer. So that was what the reason was.
How would you pitch Bombay Stories to the audience?
It's a very real film, जो हम लोगों ने बहुत प्यार से बनाई है. It's about women, and it has a very important message about women empowerment, about sex workers. मंटू साहब की कहानी है, बहुत उम्दा तरीके से बनाई गई है, तो प्लीज देखिए.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. So that was a conversation with Anupriya Goenka, Indian actor who acts in Hindi films and Telugu cinema as well, making a debut in Cannes. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Cannes for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. Royal Challengers Bengaluru and Sunrisers Hyderabad will battle for a top 2 finish in their final IPL League match in Hyderabad on Friday. RCB are currently on top of the table with 18 points, and a win will confirm their place at number 1. Hyderabad are third with 16 points and still have a chance to enter the top 2 if they beat RCB by a big margin and other results go their way. RCB have impressed this season under captain Rajat Patidar. Virat Kohli has scored 542 runs, while bowlers Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Josh Hazlewood have led the attack well. SRH will rely on power hitters like Abhishek Sharma, Travis Head, Henrik Clausen to challenge the favourites. Chennai Super Kings have crashed out of IPL 2026 after a heavy 89-run defeat against Gujarat Titans in Ahmedabad on Thursday. CSK finished the season with just 12 points from 14 matches and missed the playoffs for the third straight year. Batting first, Gujarat Titans posted a huge total of 229 runs. Sai Sudarshan scored 84, while Shubman Gill made 64. Jos Buttler smashed 57 runs. Gill and Sudarshan gave GT a flying start with 62 runs in the power play. In reply, CSK were bowled out for 140 in just 13.4 overs. Shivam Dubey was the only Chennai batter who looked comfortable at the crease. The big win boosted Gujarat Titans' chances of finishing in the top 2. And in football, Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice as Al Nassr defeated the MAC 4-1 to win the Saudi Pro League title on Thursday. It is Ronaldo's first league trophy since joining Al Nassr in January 2023. Al Nassr secured their 11th league title and finished 2 points ahead of rivals Al Hilal on the final day of the season. The team had missed an earlier chance to seal the title after a late draw against Al Hilal and also suffered defeat in the AFC Champions League two finals last week. Sadio Mane opened the scoring while Kingsley Coman added another goal. Ronaldo then scored twice to complete the victory and take his league tally to 28 goals this season. East Bengal have finally ended their long 22-year wait for a top-flight title by winning the Indian Super League in Kolkata on Thursday at the Kishore Bharati Kridangan. East Bengal needed a win to secure the championship, but Inter-Kashi took the lead through Alfred Planos, putting pressure on East Bengal. However, East Bengal made a strong comeback in the second half. Yusuf Ezerjari scored the equaliser just 5 minutes after the break, and Mohammad Rashid scored the winning goal in the 73rd minute. The 2-1 victory sparked huge celebrations among the fans, who even entered the pitch after the final whistle as emotions ran high. This is East Bengal's first top-flight title since 2004, when they last won the league. After joining the ISL in 2020, the club had struggled, but this season, they have finally tasted historic success. A record number of climbers scaled Mount Everest on a single day on Wednesday. Rishi Bhandari, Secretary General of the Expedition Operators Association of Nepal, said that on 20th of May 2026, 274 people made it to the summit successfully, including the climbers and their guides. It is the highest number ever to reach the world's tallest peak on the same day from the Nepali side. The previous highest number of ascents from the Nepali side was 223 on May 22nd in 2019. Bhandari brushed aside concerns over overcrowding, saying climbers were spread across different camps and areas, but added that it would be preferable to limit the summit attempts to not more than 250 people in a single day. And let's give you more sports news now. Ashmita Chaliha entered the women's singles quarterfinals of Malaysia Masters Super 500 tournament on Thursday. She is now the only Indian player left in the competition. Ashmita defeated Malaysia's Goh Jin Wei in straight games. She won the match 21-13, 21-16 in less than 30 minutes. The Indian shuttler looked confident throughout the match and controlled the game with smart shot selection and strong defence. Ashmita will next face Denmark's 8th seed Lane Hormark Crosterfield in the quarter-finals. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says.